All right, I'm going to try to find a site that is not a biblical site, because obviously all of the Bible sites are going to be showing this off. Sci-Tech Daily. Let's go with Sci-Tech Daily. That does not sound like a biblical site. All right, let me minimize this and then share it. Why is my computer so slow? I don't know. Present, share screen. Was Baruch Hashem, blood always finds its level. Window. Boom. Here we go. Mike, we got to have that conversation someday. I guarantee I'll be shocked how easily it's explained away how deceptive a microevolution in every sense it's biologically impossible. Well, I mean, I explained it to you. I think you're just concerned more about the what do you call it? The descriptor than the practical application. All right. What's it say? SciTech Daily. Sodom and Gomorrah. Evidence that a cosmic impact destroyed a biblical city in the Jordan Valley. Maybe I do need a faster computer, Jeff. An ancient disaster. Researchers present evidence that a cosmic impact destroyed a biblical city in the Jordan Valley. Scientists have found evidence of a cosmic airburst event around 1650 BC that devastated the ancient city of Tel El Hammam in the southern Jordan Valley, causing extreme temperatures and depositing high concentrations of salt. This event, potentially inspiring the biblical tales of Sodom and Jericho's destruction, might have also led to a mass abandonment of cities in the region during the last Bronze Age gap. In the Middle Bronze Age, about 3,600 years ago, roughly 1650 BC, the city of Tel Hammam was ascendant, located on a high ground in the southern Jordan Valley, northeast of the Dead Sea. The settlement in its time had become the largest continuously occupied Bronze Age city in the southern Levant, having hosted early civilizations for a few thousand years. At that time, it was 10 times larger than Jerusalem and 5 times larger than Jericho. It's an incredibly culturally important area, says James Kennett, Emeritus Professor of Earth Science at University of California, Santa Barbara. Much of where the early cultural complexity of humans developed is in this general area. A favorite site for archaeologists and biblical scholars, the mound hosts evidence of culture all the way from the Chalcolithic, never read that word before, Chalcolithic or Copper Age, all compacted into layers as the highly strategic settlement was built, destroyed, and rebuilt over millennia. But there is a 1.5 meter, 5-foot interval in the Middle Bronze Age stratum that caught the interest of some researchers for its highly unusual materials. In addition to the debris one would expect from destruction via warfare and earthquakes, they found pottery shards with outer surfaces melted into glass, bubbled mud brick, and partially melted building materials, all indications of an anomalously high temperature event, much hotter than anything the technology of the time could produce. We saw evidence for temperatures greater than 2,000 degrees Celsius, 3,600 degrees Fahrenheit, said Kennett, whose research group at the time happened to have been building the case for an older cosmic airburst about 12,800 years ago that triggered major widespread burning, climactic changes, and animal extinctions. The charred and melted materials at Tal El Hammam looked familiar, and a group of researchers, including impact scientist Alan West, not Wally West, and Kennett joined. Wait, Alan West? Is Alan West one of the Flashes too? Was he a descendant of Wally West? Joined Trinity Southwestern University biblical scholar Philip J. Sylvia's research efforts to determine what happened at this city 3,650 years ago. Salt and bone. There's evidence of a large cosmic airburst close to the city called Tel El Hammam. Kennett said of an explosion similar to Tunguska event, a roughly 12 megaton airburst that occurred in 1908 when a 50 to 6 to 60 meter meteor pierced the Earth's atmosphere over the eastern Siberian taiga, which also strangely happened to coincide with when Tesla was testing his energy-emitting machine. Strange coincidence. The shock of the explosion over Tel Aviv was enough to level the city, flattening the palace, and surrounding the walls and mud brick structures. According to the paper, the distribution of bones indicated extreme disarticulation and skeletal fragmentation in nearby humans. For Kennett, further proof of the airburst was found by conducting many different kinds of analysis on soil and sediments from the critical layer. Tiny iron and silica-rich spherules turned up in their analysis, as did melted metals. I think one of the main discoveries, shocked quartz. These are sand grains containing cracks that form only under very high pressure, Kennett said of one of the lines of evidence that point to a large airburst near Tal al-Haman. We have shocked quartz from this layer. That means where there were incredible pressures involved to shock the quartz crystals. Quartz is one of the hardest minerals. It is very hard to shock. The airburst, according to the paper, may also explain the anomalously high concentrations of salt found in the destruction layer, an average of 4% in the sediment and as high as 25% in some samples. The salt was thrown up due to the high impact pressures, Kenneth said of the meteor, that likely fragmented upon contact with the Earth's atmosphere. And it may be that the impact partially hit the Dead Sea, which is rich in salt. The local shores of the Dead Sea are also salt-rich, so the impact may have redistributed those salt crystals far and wide just at Tel al-Haman, so also nearby Tel es-Sultan, proposed as the biblical Jericho, which also underwent violent destruction at the same time, and Tal Nimrin, also then destroyed. The high salinity soil could have been responsible for the so-called late Bronze Age gap, the researchers say, in which cities along the lower Jordan Valley were abandoned, dropping the population from tens of thousands to maybe a few hundred nomads. Nothing could grow in these formerly fertile grounds, forcing people to leave the area for centuries. Evidence for resettlement of the Tel al-Haman and nearby communities appears again in the Iron Age, roughly 600 years after the city's sudden devastation in the Bronze Age. Fire and brimstone. I don't know how long this thing is. I'm just going to keep going. Did you say so? I did say salt. Salt. So what happens basically is this thing explodes. The salt gets thrown into the air and then dispersed around the region, which is probably what killed the Salton Sea. And then, like you said, created layers of salt all over the freaking place, including, I would say, if you were not hiding in a cave with your family and instead you were looking back, longing for the city of sin that you just came from. When that happened, if you weren't close enough to get blown away by the explosion, you were probably still close enough to get covered in the salt fallout, and possibly turn into what one would possibly describe as a pillar of salt. Possible. Tel el-Haman has been the focus of an ongoing debate as to whether it could be the biblical city of Sodom, one of the two cities in the Old. It's exactly where Sodom should be, that were destroyed by God for how wicked they and their inhabitants had become. One denizen, Lot, is saved by two angels who instruct him not to look behind as they flee. Lot's wife, however, lingers and is turned into a pillar of salt. Oh, look, they brought it up. Meanwhile, fire and brimstone fell from the sky. Multiple cities were destroyed. The thick smoke rose from the city inhabitants and were killed, and area crops were destroyed in what sounds like an eyewitness account of a cosmic impact event. It's a satisfying connection to make. From SciTech Daily, not from Biblical Archaeological Review or any other kind of Bible site. They say uh, the Bible sounds like an eyewitness account of a cosmic impact event. Satisfying connection to make. I'm gonna stop because I think this thing keeps going and going, and I don't have all day. We're only half an hour. Brooklyn says this is hilarious. Now maybe it was natural disaster that turned Lot's wife into salt. Okay, Brooklyn Lou the cynic here. Don't you understand the argument from... Oh, you weren't here yesterday. The thing is, archaeology, most of the time, only corroborates names, places, sometimes events, but the archaeology wouldn't corroborate an event from the perspective of the Bible, because the Bible was written by people who believed God did all of this stuff, right? But the archaeology can corroborate the event itself, although they wouldn't attribute it to God because they believe in their own gods, right? So when you have an archaeological event that corroborates the actual miracle, which you're calling a natural disaster, but the only reason Lot survived was because the miracle of the angels taking them out. Otherwise, they would have been turned into... What did they say? That about the human bodies there? They were pulverized, or they weren't just fractured. They were not disintegrated. What was the word they used? Oh, did I close it up? Why do I do those things to myself? It's like, oh, I'm done with it. Close. Now I don't know where it is. But this is an archaeological find that corroborates the miraculous event itself.